Friends, last month, on June 18th at her summer camp, Melissa Jane Kennedy Lissy was in the dining hall when her counselor spontaneously shouted at Jacob's camp, "Today is a very special day." And that's the cue for everyone else to shout back, "How special is it?" And then the counselor answers, "It's Lissy Kennedy's birthday." And then song breaks out in Hebrew, Hayom Yom Haledet, Hayom Yom, right? They then put Lissy in a chair and they lift her 13 times, plus one more to grow on. My friends, today is a very special day, not just because of the double bar bat mitzvah we're celebrating this Shabbat weekend, but because it's Shabbat Balak, about a king named Balak who hires a Moabite soothsayer named Bilam to curse the Jewish people. There's even a talking ass, we have changed in Lissy's translation to a talking donkey, whom Bilam meets along the way. But that's not why today's a very special day. Today's a very special day because I think Balak and Bilam saw Temple Israel-Memphis. It's as if they climbed to the top of a mountain, not near Israel, but think of East Tennessee, overlooking far away these 30 flat acres in Memphis. And as they get ready to curse the Jewish people with the worst curse words, instead of a curse, out come the words Eleanor sang earlier, Ma Tovu. How good, how beautiful are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. Here's a fun fact. Ma Tovu is the only Hebrew prayer by a non-Jew that made its way into the Jewish prayer book. It's in this week's Torah portion, Balak. We talked about how he hired Bilam to curse, and his words were transformed into how good and fine are these Jewish people in their tents. What's amazing, as the Torah tells us, is that Bilam, he came from the big city, Babylon, had big buildings, think Manhattan skyscrapers. This is where the hired prophet to curse the Jews lived. And there he was looking down, not at big buildings, he was looking at these modest Jewish dwellings, these tents that lacked the pizzazz of the places that people flock to for summer vacation. What was so beautiful about the Jewish tents? What did he see that others did not see? What did he see that moved him to cry out, Ma Tovu, how beautiful this is? I think he saw what we're carrying on here year-round at Temple. He saw community. And he saw that the true beauty of a community must come from something deep, like families coming together, friends, and even total strangers, bound to the same faith, family, people, and Jewish vows. He saw a living community where people make places holy. He saw something like what's going on inside the synagogue. That's what inspired Balaam, who had seen it all, to say, Ma Tovu, this is beautiful. He sensed the Spirit. Maybe he even saw the Sabbath candles glowing in the Jewish people's tents. He sensed the treasure that Judaism is and the Jewish people are, living each day with purpose, passion, and love. Did y'all know that each waking day is composed of 57,600 seconds? Yes, I had to look that up. When we pause for just a few of those seconds on Shabbat, we stop taking for granted all the good which we've been blessed when we wake up each day. Consider a simple act like breathing. What's the big deal? And yet, if that's taken away, it becomes the most important thing in life. How many miracles of daily life do we overlook because we're too busy multitasking, worrying, looking at our phones? or arguing over trivial things. Shabbat is our communal reminder that we weren't intended to live this way. We are meant to recapture joy, love, knowing that we can draw close to Judaism, each other, and God in so many different ways, in every way, and in every season, like a July summer night. Today is a very special day, my friends, because the beauty and good that Bilam saw in Judaism is reflected right now where you are. Like Bilam, I saw new things this week. I saw young children playing in our early learning center summer camp. This girl I once knew as little is now a teen, and this child of temple with roots going back to the founding of our congregation in 1854, Russell, who we're about to hear from, is still teaching us so much. This week's Torah portion is all about realizing how lucky we are simply to have this gift of Judaism, this home for Judaism in our lifetime and in our spiritual homeland, Israel. If a talking ass and pagan prophet could see that, the unique blessing of the Jewish people, then anyone can, if we just open our eyes. Ma Tovu, how beautiful it's been, how beautiful you are, how good it is to see the true beauty of community. And let us say, Amen. And
I'll start with the obvious here, but sometimes the obvious is very important. I feel very, very blessed to be able to live, to have this wonderful honor. And I feel very, very blessed to have so many members of family and friends here tonight. Today's Parsha, as Rabbi Greenstein has already told you, contains the words, Ma Tovu, Ohaleka Yaakov, Mishkanateka Yisrael. And I'll be reading those in the Torah shortly. And as he's already hinted to you, or maybe more than hinted, those words don't just refer to the place, the dwellings where people live. They refer to our spiritual dwellings as well. I have been a part of this spiritual tent for a very long time. I was born into this congregation. One of my great-great-grandfathers, Theobald Foles, was one of the founders of the congregation in 1853. And I will be using tonight to read the Torah, the yad that he contributed that year to the congregation, which may well be the very oldest object that this congregation owns. I think that older people do not become traditional prophets. I don't do any better at looking into the future than I ever did. But sometimes as you get older, you become a prophet in reverse. Otherwise, you can't foretell the future, but you can do a little better at analyzing the past. This congregation, Temple Israel, always followed the prophetic rules of justice and love. This congregation always had the belief that Judaism could be changed to meet the needs of people in the modern world. And always we believed in the spiritual equality of men and women. And yet many years ago, when I was growing up in the congregation, there were many things that I worried about. In those days, this was a very Germanic, Ashkenazic congregation with little diversity. The rabbis were orators instead of teachers, and were often difficult to approach. The services were watered down, contained little Hebrew, and there was little participation, and nobody sang. In those days, my brother and I both hated religious school because we didn't learn anything about Judaism in religious school. There were few attempts made at adult education, and even though certain wealthy members of the congregation always contributed to causes, there was little done to give the opportunity to the individual member of the congregation to participate in Tikkun Olam, the repair of the world. I want to tell you that over the last 60 or 70 years, every one of those problems that so worried me when I was younger has been corrected. Part of this is because of marvelous leadership from people like Harry Danziger and Micah Greenstein. And part of it is because new generations in this congregation had the vision and courage to make the needed change. As I said, being a reverse prophet, I can't make any predictions for the future, but I can make a wish for the future. And here it is. It's my sincere wish that 83 years from now, in that distant year of 2107, some child of this congregation born in this year will stand up before you, as I am going to do now, and say, how beautiful is our tent. How wondrous has been our change. I am so proud to celebrate my second bar mitzvah at Temple Israel.